The Chicago Bulls face a familiar opponent today when they face the Philadelphia 76ers the second game in a row. We're going to talk about how the Bulls can have that success that they had last time against the 76ers again tonight. We're also going to ask, is Billy Donovan a better defensive coach than sometimes we give him credit for, considering where the Bulls rank defensively? And the last thing, we're going to go over the Bulls' remaining schedule left and how it's going to affect the playing race. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. And right off the top, if you want to follow me, you can do so at CEO Haize, that's CEO Haize. And today, the Chicago Bulls faced off against the Philadelphia 76ers. And all the same things that we said before still apply tonight. Now, Alex Caruso and James Harden are both listed as questionable for this game, but I have a high, suspicion that James Harden is going to play, that James Harden may even be looking to rebound from him going 8 of 44 in the series so far against the 76ers. So maybe James Harden is going to be looking. If he does not play, I'm fully going to be on the bandwagon of James Harden is ducking the Chicago Bulls. Is that true? Probably not. But hey, I'm going to say it here because that's what I wanted to say. But with that being said, if he does play, how does James Harden rebound after two bad performances against the Bulls? Does he come in and play focused? Does he play a level and just tries to play through his game? He's having a hell of a season, right? I don't want to take that away from him, but he's completely sucked against the Chicago Bulls. So does he come in looking to really, get off that stigma and kill the Chicago Bulls? It's fully possible as well. How do the Bulls defend Joel Embiid? Joel got his numbers last game against the Chicago Bulls, but one of the things that the Bulls did do well is they contained him in the first half, and even when he did start going off on us, they forced him to shoot those mid-range shots that he can still knock down, but they kept him from getting close to the rim. And if the Bulls try to implore a similar game plan, does Embiid go to that mid-range shot a little bit earlier, or does he do what he usually does? When Embiid doesn't have a good first half or a great first half, he just steadily keeps attacking, finds different ways to score, and he eventually gets his numbers. And he's going to get his tonight against the Chicago Bulls. I don't think there's any doubt about that. If Joel Embiid doesn't get his, then, somebody else probably went off in that case. But he's going to get his points. And we know that we don't have anybody, and there isn't anybody probably in the NBA that can shut down James Harden completely. So he's going to get his points. What the Bulls need to do is do similar to what they did last game. And that is defend everyone else around him, I should say, very well. Can you keep James Harden from having a big game? Can you keep Tyrese Maxey from going completely nuclear against you? He's going to probably get his too. There's going to be another player to get his, but do you make it an inefficient scoring night for Maxey, right? Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, if he does play, Pat Bev, Ayo Dosunmu, Patrick Williams, who got on Maxey, and Harden as well last game. Those are going to be the people who are guarding Tyrese Maxey throughout this game. And so, here, what I want to see is Zach LaVine have a good enough defensive game to where if we do see a Patrick Williams or a Pat Bev on Maxey late in the game, it's just because, it's just late in the game and Zach LaVine's done a pretty good job up until that point. Tobias Harris as well. That Tobias Harris matchup and how DeMar DeRozan does in that matchup is keenly important for the Bulls to find success against the 76ers. Now, I will say this, right? We know that DeMar DeRozan isn't the greatest defender. Tobias Harris is an okay defender, right? So they kind of nullify each other in that sense, but we want to see DeMar continue to do some of the things defensively that DeMar's been doing in this recent stretch. Playing the passing lanes well, playing on-ball defense okay. As off-ball, he gets caught slipping a couple of times. He gets caught slipping in both ways, but DeMar has been enough defensively for the long part of the game. Yes, he still is going to have his defensive lapses completely, but he's been enough for the majority of the game here lately, right? We need him to see that. We need him to continue to do that as well. PJ Tucker also listed as questionable in day-to-day. Does he play tonight against the Chicago Bulls? And if he doesn't play, it really does change the matchup a lot. But if he does, that's a bruiser. And to have Alex Caruso, if he does play himself, being that starting lineup against PJ Tucker, I just think will never work. So we're probably going to see a similar starting lineup to the Chicago Bulls as what we had last game. Probably going to be Patrick Williams out there. Well, I think this is the right matchup for it. I think we need his size. I think Patrick Williams did a really good job defensively and also, did an okay job on the boards, getting some boards that we needed. And that brings us to the next point. The team has to rebound as a team. Against the Philadelphia 76ers, we were still out-rebounded, I think, by double digits in the last game. The Bulls are going to have to rebound as a team. Now, are they going to match the rebounding of the Philadelphia 76ers? That's a tall order to ask. But as I forget to turn on my lights, late is never is better than never. So we're going to need to see that as well from the Chicago Bulls in this game, how this team plays, how this team performs on the defensive side and takes care of the basketball to limit those turnovers is going to be important for anything that the Bulls do. But which team shoots a better percentage? Do we see another grinded out defensive performance for both teams? Or do we have teams that shoot the ball better, especially from three? If either team gets hot from three, it changes the outlook of how that last game looked. Do both teams struggle from the three-point line again? Does one fare better than the other? Do they both shoot the three ball well? The Chicago Bulls are taking almost double the amount of three-pointers that they did earlier in the season in just the last 3 games. The Chicago Bulls are shooting threes. A lot of that, DeMar DeRozan, well, some of that, I want to say a lot, is DeMar DeRozan. Patrick Beverley shooting any open three that he gets. Yes, the Bulls' volume of three-point shots are going up. Thus, their makes are going up as well, even though they're not shooting effective percentages. And we're seeing that work in the Bulls' favor. Of course, we want to see them take effective shots and hit the ball effectively. But if the Bulls can continue to play a more modern style offense with taking more threes, right or wrong, that's where the NBA is right now. It definitely helps. The Bulls need to shoot the ball overall better from the field also. But we'll see. If it's another grinded out game, if both teams shoots like crap, then it's just who can step it up defensively in the right moments, and be on the lookout as well in this game for Joel Embiid to avoid foul trouble. That's going to be something big that Joel Embiid's probably going to try to do, considering he fouled out last game, even though he played 11 minutes after getting his 5th foul, which is just huge. And shout out to Joel Embiid for being able to stay on the floor. But we need to look out for that as well. Our big three to end this whole little pregame preview conversation. Our big three showed up like a big three. They made their mistakes, especially in DeMar and Zach having key turnovers in places where the Bulls were trying to go and run that luckily didn't result in a loss. But the big three we're going to need to step up, especially in these playoff atmosphere type games. We're in the UC tonight. We're at home against a team that we just punched in the face. Best believe they're coming out giving everything to us today. And so we have to be prepared to defend well. We have to be prepared for the runs. We have to be prepared to perform as if this was a playoff game. And if the Bulls do that, if Billy Donovan continues coaching at least the defensive side and making some adjustments defensively a little bit better, the sky's the limit for the Chicago Bulls, as we've all known all season long, which brings us to the next topic for today. Billy Donovan. The Bulls are playing some of the best defense in the NBA since the All-Star break. And while I have my gripes with Billy Donovan and his play calling at times, while I have my gripes with Billy Donovan and how he uses his players on offense, hell, I even have my gripes with Billy Donovan with how this team, the rotations of this team at times, when not having size out there, when we need some size, when we got healthy size on the bench. But one of the best things that Billy Donovan has done this season is the defensive side of the ball. We have been, I told you guys, literally since about mid-December, we've been one of the best teams in the NBA. Since the All-Star break, we've been the best defensive team in the NBA next to the Philadelphia 76ers. So I want to give credit where credit's due. I throw critique, but regardless of what it is, if it's Patrick Beverley's communication, and again, that's why I pointed back that we've been better defensively since midway of December. The coaching staff of this team has done a pretty good job at defensively using the players that we have that aren't necessarily the best one-on-one defenders, but creating a game plan that has been near effective. And it's been way more effective late than it was even in mid-December when our defense started stepping up. Our offense has also stepped up. So the combination of those two things has definitely helped the Chicago Bulls. But I will say, and I do want to point out, whether it's Billy Donovan, whether it's just the coaching staff overall, whether one of the assistant coaches is playing defensive coordinator. The brand of defense that the Chicago Bulls are playing right now is probably the most sustainable thing about the team, right? Because hot shooting, cold shooting, Zach LaVine scoring or averaging over 30 points on 50% shooting, that's not sustainable. Defense is always one of the most sustainable things in the NBA, and the brand of defense that the Bulls are playing is what has really helped kick off this run into where the Bulls are looking more and more like a playoff team every single game. And the players deserve it's not all on the coaching. The players deserve their credit for it as well, because they are playing playoff type defense when other teams are going on runs, when they lose leads, they are relying on their defense. They are understanding that they need to lock in defensively, getting to the loose balls, rebounding the ball, getting turnovers, getting out in transition. These are things that the Bulls are doing defensively, right? Defensively, having great point of attack defense, Even Nikola Vucevic, if you look over the last couple of games, has been way better at deterring shots, not shot blocking, but deterring shots and playing against better centers defensively and forcing them to guard him offensively. But the defense and that identity that the Chicago Bulls have brought, the communication on defense, Alex Caruso and Pat Bev, when they were in the starting lineup, it helps the defense be better because of how they communicate and their defensive basketball IQ or basketball IQ overall, because they're both really smart basketball players. But when you look at a team that has questionable defenders at every level, right? Zach LaVine, questionable defender, can be really good at times, but hasn't really been consistent. DeMar DeRozan, I already know, I think he's one of the worst defensive players I've seen in my life. But again, he's been playing, getting steals. And last game, every one of the big three having 3 or more steals in that game. Nikola Vucevic, just talked about him, questionable defender, but has been playing pretty well. Kobe White stepped up defensively, huge time. Ayo Dosunmu stepped back defensively hugely this season. But the Bulls are playing really good defense, and that defense that they're playing is what is catapulting them to get to the point that they are. Yes, the offense has been great at times, but we all know when it comes down to it in the playoffs, when it comes down to it in playoff atmosphere type games, and in games where things are just ugly and you can't hit your shot, how you play defense dictates that game. And the Bulls, Billy Donovan, the coaching staff, whoever you want to put that on, has been really good at focusing on that defensive side of the ball. And it hopefully is going to get the Bulls into the desired play-in area, playoff area, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully it's coming for the Chicago Bulls. And this level of play that they're giving you is the best indicator that this is going to be something that may be sustainable. Let's see. Bulls have 11 games left on the season. Let's see what these 11, the record over these 11 games are. Now, speaking of record, before we end the show today, I want to talk about where the Bulls sit in that playing race. This is probably going to be a small segment on every episode until the end of the season with only 11 games left, by the way. So the Bulls right now have 11 games remaining on the season. 5 of those games are against teams that are at 500 or above. We have the 8th easiest schedule in the remaining schedule in the NBA for the remaining part of the season. When you compare that to the teams that are around our area, we have the 19th toughest schedule, which is, if I'm calculating things correctly, that's the 11th easiest schedule in the NBA. There you go. Math don't be mathing sometimes. But when you look at the Atlanta Hawks, for example, a team above us, they have 6 games left on. They have 11 games as well. 6 games left of teams 500 or above. Over that time period, they have the 7th toughest remaining schedule left in the NBA. The Toronto Raptors, who have 5 games at with teams above 500 or at 500. And when you look at them, they have the 15th toughest schedule in the NBA, still tougher than the Chicago Bulls. The Washington Wizards, another team around us, they have 5 games remaining against teams above at 500 or above. They have 11 games left as well. They have the 18th toughest schedule in the NBA, another tougher schedule than the Chicago Bulls. And then we come to the Indiana Pacers. They have 6 games left against team at 500 or above, and they have the 4th toughest schedule remaining in the NBA. What does that mean? That means that in this remaining 11 game stretch, the Chicago Bulls not only come in with the easiest schedule out of the teams in that play-in area, on top of that, they also have one of the lower amount of teams above 500, which we fared pretty well against the teams above 500 so far this season. The Bulls are in a position to possibly do something that we didn't necessarily think, with how sucky this season has been, that was going to come for the Chicago Bulls. And that is maybe even getting to 500. Now, as I've been saying to you guys and telling you guys, there's nothing that changes to me what needs to happen with this team in this offseason besides the team possibly winning a playoff series. Now, that's unlikely to come. And with the play that we've said, I can realistically say as well, maybe that changes a little bit more as far as what parts we need to retool with the way that the big three are playing now that they have a point guard in Pat Bev. I still think that if we can, we need to try to go out this offseason and get a point guard better than Patrick Beverley. Would still love to re-sign him for him to come back. But if all things are equal and we make adjustments in other places and bring in some more size and shooting to the bench, then we have to roll into the next season with Patrick Beverley, our starting point guard. I'm not necessarily hating it right now. So the Bulls have a chance. They have a fighting chance to get to where we want and need them to get to, and that's that playing area. They hold a 2.5 game advantage over the 2 teams below them. Let's hope that continues for the Chicago Bulls. Now, before we go, we got 2 voicemails to get into. This first one is from the 630.
What's up, Haize? Dude, hell of a win last night. Hell of a win. Defense came out huge. They just kept on being persistent, man. I loved watching it and loved hearing about it and loved seeing it. I loved everything, man. I saw Red last night. The reason why I'm calling in is I was doing the math, and we have, out of 82 games, we have 11 games left of the season. So basically, we have 13% of the season left. So out of 60 seconds, that's 8 seconds. That's basically 8 seconds left of a minute. Dude, that is not much time. So, you know, the reason why I'm bringing all this up, man, I feel like everybody who's on this bandwagon of we should trade this person, we gotta let this person go. Like, I feel like right now, man, Chicago Nation just needs to step up and be like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna hold my thought. And we just gotta cross our fingers, man, that the Bulls keep on playing like they did last night, because they could seriously make some noise. And I mean, I'm thinking that they probably won't, make the finals or anything, but dude, if they keep it persistent like that with everyone on board, Patrick Williams bringing in some minutes, Pat Beverly bringing in minutes, like, dude, they can, if they could have just played like this from the beginning of the season and been aggressive, dude, they would be in a completely different position than they are now. But basically, I feel like we just need the most positive juju right now going into the end of the season, man. What you think? Hey, man, I love the channel. Dude, keep doing you, man. Love it. Later.
All right. And the excitement over the Philly game, as I think a lot of Bulls fans were. He talked about the Bulls making some noise. And I just kind of went over in the last segment what the Bulls need to do. The Brandon defense absolutely can do that. The Bulls are streaking. If you look at, if it wasn't for that shot against Sacramento Kings, we would have a 5-game winning streak or something like that. It's wild to think of. The Bulls are playing their best basketball at the right time. And so with that being said, let's see how this rides out. Let's see if the Chicago Bulls continue to play this way and we end up getting a playing spot and putting a chokehold on that. And then we'll see what happens in the postseason. Do I still have my doubts? Do I still have my concerns? Abso-freaking-lutely. But we'll see what that means for the Chicago Bulls in the long run. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Reginald from GA.
Hey, this is Reginald from Georgia. I would just like to say it was a nice win the other night against Philly. But, the best you can hope for this team is like a first-round win. So, being a Bulls fan, I want more than just making the playoffs or having a good showing before getting beat out. So, what do you think if the Clippers choke again this year and get run out of the playoffs? Do you think they decide, you know what, let's blow it up? I don't really see anyone going after Kawhi Leonard that hard because, he is injury prone. But what about Paul George? What would you give to have Paul George in your starting lineup with next to Zach LaVine and Vooch? Do you think it would be possible to trade, DeMar and maybe Lonzo, considering that they could use the CEE or career-ending exemption, and then sign Jakob Poeltl so they can have, Kawhi, DeMar, and Jakob. What do you think?
All right. The best that we can hope for is a first-round win, and I kind of agree with that, right? I think that's the best that we can hope for in this year, and that is even pie in the sky to a degree. Now, as far as what the Bulls need to change, changes are coming. And while I'll say I don't know if Acme necessarily moves the pieces that we think that he needs to move, and he shouldn't, right? He's the GM. He's the president of basketball operations. It's up to him and Mark Eversley to determine what pieces they think that they can continue to build around while adding some things to this team. And so that's up to them. I can say all day that I think the Bulls should move DeMar DeRozan because he can net them the most value all day long. But if AK doesn't see that, then it's up to him to whatever he does see is to create the best team possible, to put the best foot forward at that point. And so, we'll see what it means. It's the extensions and things coming like that. I don't know about the Clippers doing a trade with the Chicago Bulls to your question. Here's what I'll say is that, anything is possible, especially if the Bulls do get that career-ending exception for Lonzo Ball, which I keep talking about, but I'll even say it's probably less likely that comes. I I don't know if the Clippers will decide to blow up. Now, Paul George suffered a bad injury last night. It may just be a hyperextended knee, but it doesn't look good. So I don't know if they look at that and then say, hey, listen, the injury concerns, things like that. But, could something happen there with the Clippers for the Bulls? Anything's possible in the offseason. You never know how these GMs, how these presidents of basketball operations, how any executive on any team is going to look at their team after the season and say, I don't see it for us. Or, I do see it for us. We just need to tweak this. But anything is possible. And I do look around the league. DeJounte Murray is another player that I have my eye on long term. If we do decide to move on from Lonzo Ball, Paul George, Jimmy Butler. There are a lot of players that I would love the Bulls to go after if they're available, and veterans at that should be able to plug in. But we'll see where it gets to. I do think there's a higher than likely probability that we run majority of this team back with some key changes, as much as it pains me to say that. But we'll see. But thank you for sending in the voicemail, Reginald. That's it for today's episode of Chicago Bulls Central. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. Like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See Red if you can, y'all. It's game day. So I'll see you guys for the pregame, halftime, and postgame live streams all going down tonight. Like I like to end every episode on. Love you guys. Go Bulls. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.